This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Triple murder in New Lincoln near Crossroads. 3 men were killed in a drive-by shooting at a cook shop in an area known as New Lincoln, close to Crossroads in the corporate area. The news understands that the murders took place sometime after 7 p.m. yesterday. Police detectives were on the scene. More information to come. Justice Minister and the police welcome prosecutors' win in historic appeal. Minister of Justice Delroy Chuck has said Friday's win by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions in the Appellate Court demonstrates why the Judicature Appellate Jurisdiction Amendment Act 2021 was necessary. In its first use of a law that gives the prosecution a right to appeal sentencing, the DPP's office was successful in having the sentence of Lindell Powell increased from 12 years to life in prison. Powell pleaded guilty to the January 2017 murders of Oral McIntosh and Ida Clark and was sentenced last December to 12 years imprisonment on each count. He would only serve 12 years as the sentences were to run concurrently. Supreme Court Judge Justice Bertram Morrison, who tried the case, ruled that Powell would be eligible for parole after serving 10 years. However, the Court of Appeal agreed with the Office of the DPP that the sentence was unduly lenient and inadequate given the circumstances of the cases. The appeal court instead ruled that Powell should serve life sentences on each count and become eligible for parole after 24 years and 7 months. Minister Chuck has welcomed the ruling, reiterating that sentences should be commensurate with the crimes committed. He argued that the initial sentence imposed had been inappropriate for murder.
From the case itself, the sentence that was imposed was inappropriate for murder, and therefore the Court of Appeal, having examined the circumstances and the case itself, has provided directions for trial judges to be able to impose a sentence that is appropriate for the type of offense, and in this case, murder. Life imprisonment, I think that murder should always be life imprisonment with a minimum time of sentence, and in this case, it was 24 years. The original sentence was 12 years, once it's murder, it should be life imprisonment, and usually anywhere between 15 and 30 years before parole.
Vince Bailey, Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of crime, also believes the new ruling is just.
From a law enforcement perspective, we are satisfied with the outcome of the case and the revised sentence, and we believe that justice was served and the type of punishment that was, or the sentence is commensurate with the type of crime that was committed. And so we believe that the effort of the police was not in vain. We are satisfied that the work was done and the sentence represents what we consider to be just.
Westmoreland police search for suspects in gun attack at candlelight vigil. The police are searching for gunmen who opened fire on patrons at a candlelight vigil in Hertford District, Westmoreland on Thursday night. A 47-year-old man was shot in the attack and is admitted to hospital. Investigators say about 7 o'clock, persons had gathered in the vicinity of Hertford Square for a candlelight vigil for a man who was killed in the community last week. Shortly after, a motor car with armed men aboard drove up and opened fire on them. It was later discovered that one man was shot in the upper body. He was rushed to hospital. The Westmoreland police have not established a motive for the attack. Holness administration politicizing crime, says Brown. Opposition Senator Lambert Brown has accused the Andrew Holness-led administration of politicizing the crime crisis. Contributing to the State of the Nation debate in the Upper House on Friday, Senator Brown said a reporter that the Prime Minister will announce a crime plan at the Jamaica Labour Party's upcoming conference is partisan and unacceptable.
Dr. Chang has said that the Prime Minister will on November 20th Sunday, November 20th, be indicating a crime plan to the nation. Mr. President, a partisan political gathering is not the time and place to be announcing a national crime plan. What that does is to say this is a JLP plan. What Jamaica needs now is a national unity against the criminals. And so find another place. Come to Parliament. Go to Vale Royal. Go to Jamaica House. Go to King's House. But make it a national rather than a partisan approach to fighting crime.
Education Minister determined to press ahead with a devotional protocol despite a pushback. Education Minister Favour Williams says her ministry will be advancing plans to establish protocols that will govern devotions in schools, despite church leaders cautioning the government that it should not micromanage such religious observances. We are not trying to micromanage, but we have to provide guidelines, and the schools have operated without guidelines for devotions. But now that we have seen this situation and who knows what's next in the future, Williams said, referring to an incident at the St. Andrew-based Oberlin High School on Wednesday, in which dozens of students fell into what seemed like a trance after devotional activities. The incident reportedly occurred after the teacher leading devotions said she had a word for the students and proceeded to pray for them. This then escalated into an extended period of speaking in tongues and triggered a chain reaction in some students. Some students fell to the ground screaming in a state of stupefaction. Others appeared overwhelmed with emotions, while some shared their fear about the strange incident. Pointing out that a school is not a church, Williams said occurrences like this emphasized the importance of having a protocol for devotions. We have to provide some guidelines to accommodate the different religions, but also at the same time to let the religions know that when they come into schools, it is not church, it is school. It is still a school, and there has to be respect for all the religions, for all the children that are in the school with different religions as well, she told the news on Friday. Williams was attending a ribbon cutting and a naming ceremony for a conference room at the Mona Heights Primary School and the handing over of students' bathrooms renovated by the Chase Fund at a cost of $7 million. The conference room was named in honor of the late Carl McDowell, the school's longest-serving board member and vice chairman. According to Williams, the policy will include, among other things, the vetting of content for devotional activities. She is confident that when it is put forward, it will not receive much opposition, as the guidelines will be broad enough to accommodate the different religions. I think they are going to be endorsed by Jamaicans, Williams said. Remember that these children are in our care as the Ministry of Education and Youth, and we have a very high level of responsibility in law over children. They come to us from many different homes, many different religions, and their parents send them to us with an expectation that they will be educated in a particular way. She said that students were impressionable and vulnerable, and so the schools should not be treated like crusades. We don't want for there to be situations where entities are coming in trying to get them to become members of different religious groups and so on. That's for the church, and when parents take children to church, the education minister said. On Friday, a Christian media group joined the calls urging the government to be careful in moving to regulate religious activities in public schools. The Association of Christian Communicators and the Media says the ministry must take into account the fact that the public school system, for the most part, was established on moral and legal foundation grounded in the Christian faith. It is on this solid foundation that the majority of the traditional institutions of learning were built, the group said in a statement, noting that Jamaica is now contending with a series of negative events. It pointed to the extraordinary high rate of crime and violence in the wider society is clearly spilling over to school compounds, and the nation is becoming a dangerous place for all. According to the group, Jamaica has had the advantage of watching other countries dismantle the moral and the Christian floorboards and observing the negative impacts on children and families. Despite our penchant for violence and disorder, Jamaicans at the heart are a God-fearing and peace-loving people, and the church must be at the forefront of this battle for the soul of our country, the ACCM said. It added that devotions are our cultural identity shored up by our law. Let's take pride in it, defend it, and let other nations eventually envy us for it, the group said. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.